Imagine walking through the streets of ancient Rome. Huge temples rise above you. Crowds fill the streets. Soldiers march through the city. Chariots race through packed arenas. Rome looks powerful, rich, and almost impossible to defeat. But behind the marble statues and magnificent buildings was a much darker world. Rome was one of the greatest civilizations in human history. It created roads, aqueducts, legal systems, and an empire that stretched across 3 continents. But Rome was also a place of slavery, political murder, brutal warfare, public executions, and deadly entertainment. And some of the most shocking stories from ancient Rome are the ones history books often leave out. Rome did not begin as the enormous empire we remember today. According to Roman tradition, the city was founded in 753 BC by twin brothers named Romulus and Remus. The story says they were abandoned as babies and were raised by a she-wolf. Eventually, the brothers decided to build a city. But they could not agree about where it should be built. Their argument became violent. Romulus killed Remus and became the first king of Rome. Whether the story is true or not, it tells us something important about how Romans viewed their own civilization. Violence was not an accident in Roman history. It was part of the story from the beginning. Over the centuries, Rome grew from a small city into a powerful republic. Its armies conquered neighboring territories. Then they moved farther and farther. Soon, Rome controlled much of Italy. Then parts of Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, and eventually, one of the largest empires the ancient world had ever seen. But Rome's victories came at an enormous human cost. When Roman armies conquered a city, thousands of people could be killed. Others were captured and sold as slaves. Slavery was everywhere in Roman society. Slaves worked in farms, mines, homes, workshops, and even in the households of wealthy Romans. Some slaves were highly educated. They could work as teachers, accountants, doctors, or secretaries. Others had lives that were unimaginably brutal. The most dangerous place for a slave was often the Roman mines. Workers could be forced underground for long hours, breathing dust and working in terrible conditions. Many never returned. But perhaps the most famous slaves in Rome were the gladiators.
Today, gladiators are remembered as powerful warriors fighting for glory. The reality was much more complicated. Many gladiators were slaves, prisoners of war, or criminals. They were trained to fight inside enormous arenas. And the Roman public loved watching them. The most famous arena was the Colosseum. When it opened in the 1st century AD, tens of thousands of spectators could enter. The events were designed to entertain the crowd. Gladiators fought gladiators. Animals were released into the arena. Prisoners could be executed publicly. The Romans did not simply watch violence. They turned violence into entertainment. The crowd could cheer. They could scream. They could demand another fight. And sometimes the fate of a defeated gladiator was influenced by the audience. But the Colosseum was not only about gladiators. Roman rulers used these enormous events as political theater. Free food. Public entertainment. Huge spectacles. All of it helped emperors gain popularity. The message was simple. The emperor could provide everything. Food. Entertainment. Protection. And victory. But behind the entertainment was another problem. Roman politics was incredibly dangerous. The Roman Republic was filled with powerful families competing for influence. Politicians could use money, armies, propaganda, and violence to destroy their enemies. One of the most famous victims was Julius Caesar. Caesar became one of the most powerful men in Rome. He conquered Gaul. He became incredibly popular with his soldiers. And eventually, he crossed the Rubicon River with his army. That act began a civil war. Caesar won. He became dictator. But many senators feared that Caesar wanted to become king. And Romans had a deep hatred of kings. So a group of senators created a plan. On March 15, 44 BC, Caesar entered a meeting of the Senate. Then the assassins attacked. One stab. Then another. And another. According to ancient accounts, Caesar was attacked by a group of conspirators. The man who had conquered enormous territories was murdered by political enemies inside his own government. But Caesar's death did not save the Republic. Instead, it helped destroy it. Rome entered another period of civil war. Eventually, Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, defeated his rivals. He became the first Roman emperor. He took the name Augustus. And Rome entered a new age. The Roman Empire had begun. At first, Augustus brought stability. The empire became more organized. Roads were built. Trade expanded. Cities grew. But life inside the empire was not peaceful for everyone. Roman power depended heavily on the army. And the army could be extremely brutal. When Roman soldiers attacked a rebellious city, mercy was not guaranteed. One of the darkest examples was the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. Roman forces surrounded the city during a major Jewish revolt. The siege lasted for months. Food became scarce. People suffered from hunger. Eventually, Roman forces broke through the defenses. The Second Temple was destroyed. Thousands of people were killed, and many others were enslaved. For the Romans, it was a military victory. For the people inside the city, it was a catastrophe. But Rome was not only violent toward foreign enemies. Emperors could also be dangerous to their own citizens. Some rulers became famous for cruelty. One of the most infamous was Nero. Ancient writers accused Nero of ordering executions, eliminating political enemies, and living extravagantly. One famous story claims that Nero played music while Rome burned during the Great Fire of AD 64. However, historians still debate exactly what Nero did during the fire. What is certain is that the disaster destroyed huge areas of Rome. Afterward, Nero blamed Christians for the fire. Christians were persecuted. Some were executed publicly. Others were reportedly used in brutal spectacles. But Nero was not the only emperor surrounded by violence. Roman imperial politics could be deadly. If an emperor lost the support of the army, he could be removed. Sometimes an emperor was assassinated. Sometimes he was forced to kill himself. Sometimes an entire family was destroyed to prevent future rivals from taking power. Imagine living in a world where becoming emperor could make you the most powerful person on earth, but losing power could mean death. And yet, despite all this darkness, Rome continued to grow. Its engineers built incredible structures. Aqueducts carried water into cities. Roads connected distant parts of the empire. Roman architects created massive buildings. Their legal traditions influenced later societies. Latin influenced many modern languages. Roman culture shaped Europe and the Mediterranean world for centuries.
This is what makes Rome so fascinating. It was not simply good. And it was not simply evil. It was both. It could create incredible architecture while practicing brutal slavery. It could develop sophisticated laws while using public executions. It could build hospitals and roads while destroying entire cities during war. It could produce great philosophers, writers, engineers, and artists while political murder was happening in the halls of government. And eventually, Rome began to weaken. The empire became enormous and increasingly difficult to control. Economic problems appeared. Political instability increased. Civil wars became more common. The army became more powerful in choosing emperors. Enemies attacked Roman borders. The empire was divided into different parts. In AD 476, the Western Roman Empire traditionally came to an end when the Germanic leader Odoacer removed the young emperor Romulus Augustulus from power. But Rome did not simply disappear overnight. Its eastern half continued for almost another 1,000 years as what we now call the Byzantine Empire. Roman ideas continued to influence the world. Its language survived. Its laws survived. Its architecture survived. Its roads survived. And its stories survived. But perhaps the greatest lesson of Rome is not about its victories. It is about power. Rome became powerful because it was organized, ambitious, and willing to fight. But the same hunger for power that helped build the empire also created violence, corruption, civil war, and instability. The Romans built one of the greatest civilizations the world had ever seen. But they also showed how quickly power can become dangerous when there are no limits. The ruins of Rome still stand today. The Colosseum is still there. The roads are still there. The monuments are still there. And beneath the beauty is a reminder. Every great civilization has a story behind its monuments. And sometimes, the darker the monument's history, the more fascinating the story becomes. This was the dark history of ancient Rome.